In today's video, I'll be revisiting an old topic and one of the first videos I did on my channel, and that who would have won the Chunin exam finals if it wasn't interrupted. I've always found this an interesting topic because it's something that I really wanted to see, but of course it didn't turn out right. A few of my views on this have changed since I made that first video. I figured that today I'd be revisiting it, and I also brought along one of my friends, ThunderGod, who's also a Naruto YouTuber. So I'll go ahead and let him introduce himself.
What's going on, guys? TG or Thunder God here, and thank you to New Horizons for having me on the channel. This is the spicy topic we're talking about today. Very interesting stuff for you guys.
Yeah, we did a video before on my channel, which was Toby Rama versus Kisame, and we did a video on his channel, which was Sage Mode Naruto versus Kage Summit Sasuke. So check those out if you're interested in it. We're also going to be doing a video of Itachi versus Minato on his channel, so
Yes.
check that out. But without further ado, I think we can start with just Naruto versus Neji, which we both agree is it's the exact same as how it went because that had nothing to do with Orochimaru of the Sand. So that will just end with Naruto winning, and it also leave Naruto's hole in the ground, which he burrowed to beat Neji, which can be important later in the fight. So next up is Sasuke versus Gaara, and I'll go ahead and let TG kind of give his opinion on this one.
Yeah, so Sasuke versus Gaara is very interesting in the fact that it could actually go one of a couple ways. Gaara might actually not let's say the Leaf Village isn't attacked and there isn't no plan in place. Gaara might not actually attempt to release Shikaku against Sasuke. In which case, if this does happen, he just kind of gets beat around the whole match until his sand armor drains his chakra to quantities or to absolute zero. Which is a definitive possibility. Now, let's say the plan isn't tact and the plan is moving forward as planned. Gaara did see Sasuke as somewhat of a worthy opponent to really test his existence against, which was really like his main motivator for bringing out Shikaku, right? So let's say he does try to bring out Shikaku like he did in the original fight, in which case, he brings out the little sandball and he has Shikaku's eye over him. The same thing would play out with Sasuke drawing blood against Gaara. Gaara almost, like being super fatigued out of the fight. He has blood on him. In which case, there's no reason Sasuke wouldn't also win in this scenario. So whether Gaara really tries to like summon Shikaku or not, he's in a disadvantage position. Like at the end of the fight, regardless, either he's bleeding by the end or he just gets beat around by the end.
Yeah, I pretty much think the same thing. Like, even if he tries to get into Sandball and turn into the One Tails, when that happened originally, Sasuke got Chidori on him, and because it disrupted the transformation, Gaara was in so much pain over that, he had to be carried away by his siblings. So if it goes that way, Sasuke's gonna win because we've already seen what happens there. But if Gaara doesn't try to turn to the One Tails, he doesn't really have anything going for him here because as we saw originally, Sasuke was batting him around. And it did take some stamina for Sasuke to do this, but we did see that Gaara's sand armor was starting to drop. So I think if it was a war of attrition, Sasuke might win that. But really the X factor for Sasuke is a Chidori because there's no amount of sand that can stop it from hitting Gaara. And
Yeah.
if Sasuke tries to do like a non-lethal hit with Chidori and blood comes out, that'll make Gaara freak because Gaara has a fear of blood.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I agree.
yeah,
And just to like kind of end this little matchup, like Sasuke was still even able to contend Gaara with his partial transformation afterwards. So before then, it just really isn't questionable. It says kind of give like a sense of where these two opponents are at with each other in terms of their abilities and kind of, I don't want to say power levels, but their stats at this point.
yeah, I think it's like they're very relative, but Sasuke just has the elemental advantage,
Yeah,
and he's also he's also got the close quarters combat advantage. So just not
agreed.
a good matchup for Gaara, really. But anyway, we can go ahead and move on to Shino versus Konkoro, which is something we disagree on. I'll go ahead and give my take on it, and then I'll let TG talk about it. But basically, so we did see Shino versus Konkoro originally in the original timeline when they fought in the forest, and it ended up with both of them poisoning each other and basically tying. So basically, what I think is that it's going to more or less be the same because I think that's kind of a narrative thing, but TG thinks that prep time is going to help Shino, and then also the environment's going to help Shino, which I do see where he's coming from. So I'll go ahead and let him explain that.
Yeah, so you need to realize like Shino is the second coming of the six paths. That's joke, but I think Shino's underrated, very underrated. Now, the thing about Shino is that Shino versus Kankuro for the first for like their actual encounter is a very short fight, but they're actually in the forest where Shino's at a bit of a disadvantage. He has a bit of a harder time actually getting his bugs across the battlefield, and even in a forest, right, where Kankuro doesn't really have to move, he's still able to maneuver his bugs around Kankuro and get him on the threads. But in this scenario, not only would there be a bigger range for Shino to battle against Kankuro in, he'd also be able to send his beetles and bugs underground to the other side, similar to how he did in against Zaku in their first fight. So he'd actually have a direct burrowway behind Kankuro in this contest. And it's not like Shino's bugs are easily detectable, as even like Sasuke with his Sharingan wasn't able to see that the female was actually placed on his forehead. So Shino is actually very slippery with the bugs, and it's very possible for him to come out and actually do better than when he was in the forest. Obviously, Kankuro can still poison him. This is also as equally valid, but I do think the environment was to Shino's disadvantage at this point.
Yeah, I do see where TG's saying where like I think the environment and general circumstances are better than Shino. Just where I differ is that I don't think it's enough to change the outcome, but he thinks that Shino can get the W out of this. So we're gonna talk about both scenarios going forward if Shino would win or if they ended up knocking each other out. And we'll get there when we get there. But
Yeah.
next up is Tamari versus Shikamaru, which we both agree is the exact same. There's nothing really getting in the way of this one. There's no other factors like Orochimaru's attack or anything.
Yeah.
So we can go in and talk about the second round now, or the semifinals, and we can start with Naruto versus Sasuke. And I'd like to just bring up like a few things first. Is that when I made my last video, some people brought up that Naruto was gonna summon Gamma Bunsa and just instant GG, but that's just not practical at all.
Whew.
Because like I think people forget there's actually like spectators there and the sizes don't fit here. So that's not happening. Another thing that's not happening is a QB chalk ramp, most likely, because when that used to happen in part one, it was mainly because of a mental amp from like the Will of Fire, or Kurama was bailing out Naruto because he didn't want to die. And that's what happened in Naruto versus Gaara's fight, because like he got QB chakra from Kurama to summon Gamma Bunta when Gaara was wrapping sand around Naruto. So that was him getting bailed out. And then also Naruto was fighting a lot better in that fight and getting QB chakra occasionally because he was literally defending his friends in the village. And that's like a mental amp, a will of fire thing. But in this fight, it's more of like a sparring match. Sasuke's not gonna kill him. Like I know Naruto really wants to beat Sasuke, but it's not the same level of intensity as fighting Gaara. So I think I've said a good amount about this, so I'll let TG continue.
I agree. There's just nothing to suggest Naruto would be under the strenuous circumstances that allowed him to get into this mental amp that allowed him to listen. He's not summoning 1,000 clones for Sasuke. I hate to break it to you. No one's in danger. It's a friendly rival match. You can even see before the fight, they're smirking back and forth. They're very clearly excited to fight one another. It's not like the final valley where this is to the death. Naruto's not going to be pulling out these ridiculous outlier feats. And in all honesty, he's just going to get beat around the whole time. Sasuke's literally just going to kind of blitz around. Naruto really has no answer for Chidori. There's nothing he can really do. Like, what is he going to do? Catch it? No, he's not going to. He can't really block it. It's not like his clones are going to block it. And even to kind of like go, like we're talking about like what is he going to do against Chidori? There's a couple even statements we could look at. Like Naruto himself doesn't even think the minute Sasuke whips out Chidori, right? With the idea that he can tap into the QB's chakra, he still feels inferior to Sasuke at this point in the series. He's like, he gets super insecure about his strength. So there's a lot like it's kind of implied like he'd be below Sasuke at this point. Even to push it further, right? Sasuke is tangling with like semi-transformed Gaara, and he's doing very well. People, he obviously semi-transformed Gaara's a beast. He's Shidoring, he's ripping his limbs off, his arm and tails. The minute Naruto sees him, he's like, I'm unable to beat this guy. This guy, I'm scared. We got to get out of here. So it kind of gives you like a difference of where these characters at. Like Sasuke's gone through a major training arc. His base stats have been boosted. He has this phenomenal technique, Shidori. Like Naruto, just like Naruto has a lot of really good outlier feats, whereas Sasuke's overall, like his main arsenal has just been brought to a crazy level. So there's really just nothing to suggest Naruto would be able to beat Sasuke at this point.
Yeah, I'm just like, just we're talking about like a lot of narrative stuff and reading in between the lines, but when it comes to like abilities, like what Naruto's mainly doing here is just taijutsu and shadow clones.
Yeah.
But when we saw when Sasuke and Naruto fought on the rooftop at the beginning of the Sasuke retrieval arc, Sasuke did pretty well against the clones, pretty well in taijutsu wise, and he ended up wiping all of them with fire style.
Yeah.
So, and this was also a Naruto that had been training during the time that Sasuke was in a coma. So this was a stronger Naruto, and Sasuke still was doing fine against all his clones and stuff. So,
Yeah.
really, ability wise, like Sasuke's got the edge. I think Naruto can definitely take a beating though, and Sasuke is gonna it's gonna wear Sasuke down some. But if he really has to, I guess he could use Shidori. I guess he would do that. I don't know, but
Yeah.
in the end, I think he's got the narrative, he's got the in between the lines, he's got the abilities, advantages. So I think Sasuke is definitely taking this one. But
I agree. I agree.
so next we can move on to Shino versus Tamari. So and remember in my scenario, this doesn't happen because Shino and Kankuro knock each other out, but we're gonna talk about it anyway because TG thinks it's gonna happen. So
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and let TJ talk about his boy Shino.
What you guys need to understand about Shino is that I don't say this much, but he is built different. Like I don't throw this term around. Now, Shino's actually pretty crazy. In the fact that his beetles that, are attached to his body and that live like on him and feed off his chakra are actually able to block attacks. They're able to block Kankuro's knives when they're thrown at him. They're able to like actually like protect Shino. It's kind of a pseudo like Gaara's like sand armor. It's kind of a pseudo version of that. Just living organisms. Now Shino, when his fight with Zaku, is actually pretty crazy. As Zaku gets very close to him, close range, and charges up one of his sound wave attacks to where Shino just tanks it point blank. And we were looking at this, kind of like before this. He just tanks it and gets up fine. So it's kind of like, okay, point blank, he's able to take this like massive attack. And now I'm obviously not saying Zaku's attacks are stronger than Tamari's, as that would be illogical. Tamari's just kind of on another level. But I think it says something that Shino's just able to like tank this and just get up, no issue. And Tamari being a ranged fighter is obviously gonna be an issue. Like, is she really gonna be able to take down Shino with her like ranged attacks? So like even when she couldn't, take down Shikamaru, she might not adopt the same strategy, but Shino does have some very good defenses as well, which Tamari is going to have a hard time exploiting, as we've kind of seen Shino interact with a similar type of attack.
Yeah, originally I didn't put too much thought in this, and I was leaning towards Tamari, but TG actually ended up convincing me that Shino definitely wins this fight because really, like he said, with tanking Zaku's attack, he could take a good amount of what Tamari could dish out. Like he can't just be a ragdoll, but he can definitely prolong the fight, and that definitely helps because once Shino gets his bugs on you once, that's going to be over for the opponent. So really, I think that Shino can also use the hole in the ground and use the environment pretty well. And Shikamaru had to work to beat her, and Shino's going to have to work to beat her as well because I think they're about the same intelligence. But seeing how Chino tanked Zaku's attack, Tamari would have to really drag this out, and that's just going to favor Shino. So I think after a long fight, Shino would eventually overwhelm Tamari with bugs.
Yeah, yeah, and just a little like side note too. It's not like Shino's like a slouch in like taijutsu. It's like we're talking about his bugs, but it's not like his bugs are his only asset. So like when he's fighting Kankuro in the forest, he's able to like dash across the Kankuro like in a panel. So it's not even like his general stats are also very good as well. He's got great speed as well. So it's not like Chino's like some one trick pony. He's got, great speed, great offense, great defense. He's just a very strong fighter, which is, it's weird to say, but like when you take a look at him, he's got some crazy stuff, to be honest.
Yeah, so really that we can move on from that now
Yeah.
since we agree on it. And that leaves the finals, and the two scenarios is mine where Sasuke fights Tamari and TG's where Sasuke fights Shino. So we'll go ahead and talk about Sasuke versus Tamari first, which we both basically agree that the wind style is just going to amp Sasuke's fire style, and
Wash. Yeah.
that's all that Tamari has really. Because as soon as she tries to use wind style, Sasuke can just use fire style, and it'll come back like twice as hard. And then also, if you just want to talk about taijutsu, which I guess Tamari has, like she's shown nothing that shows that she'd be on the level of Sasuke.
Yeah, yeah. Her like 1 feet is like blocking weighted Lee's kick, but that's it. Like, what is weighted Lee to like Sasuke at this point? You know what I'm saying? So she doesn't really have those crazy like taijutsu on this level.
Yeah, I don't think anyone should really. There's not a very deep fight. It's just like wind is weak to fire, really.
Yeah.
But we can go ahead and move on to the other scenario, which is Sasuke versus Shino. I'll go ahead and let TG talk about that one.
So this is actually kind of interesting, you know, especially since like Shido, we talked about mentioned, you know, before he was able to place like the female beetle on top of Sasuke's forehead. The problem is that Sasuke's speed at this point is so above. See, Shino's actually similar to Gaara a little bit in the fact that he has the bugs like being his offensive ability and also being his defensive ability, and I think it would actually go the same way that like Sasuke versus Gaara with taijutsu kind of way, with Sasuke just kind of like blitzing around Shino's like beetles, and just simply like pounding on Shino's you know, like beetles. And the thing is, it's like Shino's beetles, they're able to protect him, right? But Sasuke is punching very hard at this point. You know, he's cracking Gaara's armor. This same Gaara's like armor wasn't really cracking in the face of Five Gates Lee, and Sasuke's just fatiguing Gaara. So to say that Shino's bugs are going to be able to like really take on Sasuke's punches at this point, it's just not logical. Like Sasuke really is just going to be blitzing around. Like these huge waves of insects aren't really going to be, you know, doing anything to Sasuke. He's just going to be beating Shino around. Even, you know, I mentioned Shino's taijutsu. It's not on the level of Sasuke, to be honest. Like Sasuke's just a different breed at this point. There's really just nothing Shino has, and at some point he's just gonna get hit with Sasuke's actual fist and end up losing the fight.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything TG says. Like, and even if Shino tries to hatch some type of plan where his bugs overtake Sasuke, like Sasuke is just so much mobile than like Kankuro or Tamari that he's going to be able to just move and really negate all of that. And really, Sasuke can just from the get go just get in Shino's face and really get him out of his comfort zone. And like he said, with how Sasuke could wear down Gaara's sand armor, if that's the case, then Shino's bug armor should definitely wear down much faster. I
Yeah,
think the only thing Shino's got going for him here is that maybe at this point in the since this is the final, Sasuke might be getting a little tired, and but I don't think that's I really doubt that's going to be enough. And even then, like fire style would be very bad for Shino's bugs, and then also
yeah.
Chidori is not something Shino can counter either. If Sasuke just wants to try to finish it with one hit, so
Yeah. Even just to add on to that little last bit, even best case scenario, right? Let's say Shino does catch Sasuke, which he wouldn't. You could even make arguments like let's say Sasuke's normal chakra that the beetles feed off of gets depleted. You know, possibly the curse mark could enter the stage as well, which we're not gonna talk about because that's kind of like reaching into like, okay, is like that's kind of less you know, less cemented in like the curse mark interacting with like Sasuke's low levels. But that's like even like Shino's like you give Shino like the best scenario ever, like the 0.001% chance. It's still like a debatable. So there's just really no hope for Shino.
yeah. And I think I mean that's the finals, so there's not that's really everything. The where we just differ is with mainly with Shino versus Kankuro, where he thinks Shino wins, where I think it would tie just like originally.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is there any other? I think I've said everything I need to say. Is there anything you want to say to cap it off?
No, I think that's really it. You know, I think I came here today, represented Chino well, and we came what we needed to do. So I think we got it. I think we did what we needed to do here today.
Yeah, and just like one last note, like me and TG are going to be doing a video on his channel where we talk about Itachi versus Minato, and we've also done some videos in the past. And I'll
Yes.
put all those links in the description. But
If you enjoy this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos in the future. Comment something if you have something to say. And thank you all for watching, and I guess I'll see you all next time.